Sierra Oakley didn't believe in fairy tales, not when she was working 2 jobs, barely scraping rent in a city where espresso cost more than her lunch. So when she spilled her protein shake all over the nicest guy at her gym, of course she didn't expect him to be her future anything. "Oh my God, I am so sorry," Sierra yelped, her eyes wide as she tried to mop the green mess off the stranger's chest with a crumpled napkin from her gym bag. He laughed, actually laughed, like he had just been splashed with water, not an overpriced kale disaster. "It's fine. I've had worse thrown at me during board meetings." That made her pause. "What kind of board meetings are you going to?" "The kind where someone always wants to throw something," he said, still grinning. "I'm Elias, and I promise I'm not mad. But I would appreciate it if you let me buy you a smoothie. You clearly need a do-over." She blinked. He had dark, messy hair like he'd just run his hand through it 1,000,000 times, a 5 o'clock shadow, and eyes so blue they looked fake. He was hot, but more than that, he was nice. "I'm Sierra," she said, still flustered. "And I'm the one who ruined your shirt. I should be buying you a smoothie." "Then let's call it even," Elias replied with a warm smile. "Come on, there's a place next door, unless you're worried I'm secretly a serial killer," she snorted. "You're wearing neon running shoes and smell like eucalyptus. I think I can take you." "Bold," he said, clearly amused. "I like that." They walked out of the gym and into the little smoothie shop next door. Sierra ordered the cheapest thing on the menu. Elias didn't even look at the prices before ordering some ridiculous blend with raw honey and bee pollen. "So," he said, leaning against the counter, "what do you do when you're not assaulting innocent gym goers with health drinks?" "I'm a part-time receptionist at a dental clinic. And I teach kids dance classes on weekends." He tilted his head. "That's awesome." "It's exhausting," she admitted, "but I love the kids, and apparently I have a gift for organizing appointment calendars." He chuckled. "I envy that. My calendar is a war zone." She raised an eyebrow. "What do you do?" "I help run a company," he said, casual, too casual. "Mostly boring stuff, meetings, spreadsheets, coffee." She didn't press. She didn't care. Honestly, he seemed kind. That was rare enough. They talked for half an hour outside the smoothie shop, and then again the next day when she saw him in the free weights section. And again 2 days later. Elias wasn't just nice, he was funny, remembered things she said, asked how her classes went, and always offered to spot her when she lifted. He never flirted too hard, never made her uncomfortable. He just showed up. By the second week, she found herself looking for him the moment she walked into the gym. "You're here early," she said one evening, tossing her bag down beside the squat rack. "Had a rough day," he said. "Figured I'd take it out on some weights." She gave him a look. "Did someone throw a stapler at you again?" "Too," he said, deadpan, and she burst out laughing. He watched her for a moment, something soft in his eyes. "You have a great laugh." She looked away, cheeks warm. "Thanks." After that, Elias started walking her home from the gym, just a few blocks, nothing dramatic. He never pushed, never asked to come up. He just made her feel seen. One night, as they stood outside her building, she turned to him and said, "You know, I never thought I'd enjoy going to the gym." "That's because you didn't have me there," he said, grinning, but his voice was quiet, like he meant more than he said. She stared at him for a second too long. "Why are you so nice?" His expression shifted like he wasn't sure how to answer. Then he said, "Because I like you, Sierra." That made something tumble in her chest, unexpected and sharp. "I like you too," she whispered, and then, without planning it, without overthinking it, she kissed him. It was quick, soft, but something in her sparked, and when she pulled back, Elias looked stunned, like he hadn't expected her to do it first. But then he kissed her again, deeper this time, one hand moving to cradle her jaw like she was fragile and precious and everything he'd been waiting for. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers and said, "Is it too soon to say I've wanted to do that since the smoothie incident?" Sierra laughed, breathless. "Maybe, but it's still cute." After that, things started happening fast. She didn't mean to fall for him. But it was hard not to when he showed up outside her dance class with coffee and bagels. When he remembered her favorite childhood movie and rented out a tiny theater one night to watch it with her, just the two of them and a projector. When he looked at her like she was magic. He never talked about money. He wore the same faded hoodies, the same running shoes. He never bragged, never showed off, and she never asked, because she liked him just the way he was. A nice guy from the gym who made her feel like the only girl in the world. But then, one Friday night, everything changed. Sierra had just finished teaching when a black car pulled up to the curb outside the studio, the kind of car that didn't belong in this neighborhood. The driver stepped out in a suit and opened the back door. Elias stepped out. But not in his gym clothes. He was wearing a tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, no tie, and a watch that probably cost more than her entire apartment. Her stomach twisted. "Hey," he said, walking toward her. "I know this is weird, but I wanted to take you somewhere." She blinked. "You own a suit," he smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I own a lot of things." That's when she noticed the driver still waiting, the way the nearby security guard nodded at Elias like he recognized him. "What's going on?" she asked slowly. He hesitated, then he reached for her hand. "There's something I haven't told you." Her chest tightened. "You're married?" "What? No," he laughed, but it was nervous. "I'm not married, Sierra, I wasn't lying about liking you, but I didn't tell you everything about who I am." She stared at him, heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" he exhaled. "My full name is Elias Carter. I'm the CEO of Carter Dynamics. It's a tech firm, and I'm a billionaire." She blinked, then blinked again, and laughed because it had to be a joke. "Wait, no, you're the smoothie guy, the gym dude. You wore neon socks yesterday." "I know," he said quietly, "and all of that is still true, but I'm also that." Her heartbeat crashed in her ears. "You lied to me," she whispered. "I didn't lie," he said quickly. "I just didn't tell you. I wanted you to like me for me." She stepped back, the distance between them suddenly massive. "And what? You thought I'd run away if you told me the truth?" "No," Elias said, his voice raw. "I was scared you'd only stay because of it." Sierra's heart twisted. She didn't know what hurt more, the fact that he hadn't told her, or the fact that she suddenly felt like she didn't even know him. Sierra didn't get into the car. She stood on the sidewalk, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, watching Elias like he might vanish if she blinked. The street lamps threw sharp lines across his face, but there was no hiding the tension in his jaw or the way his fingers kept flexing at his sides. "You should have told me," she said, her voice low, cutting through the silence between them. "I know," he replied. "I wanted to 100 times. But every time I got close, I talked myself out of it." Her eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because I liked how you looked at me." He stepped forward, hesitant. "Not like I was a headline or a bank account or some prize to win, just like I was a guy who made you laugh." "You were," she said. "But now I don't know what's real and what was just an act." "Nothing was an act," Elias said quickly. "I swear to you, every moment, every word, I wasn't pretending." She hesitated, her fingers curling into her palms. "Then why bring the car? Why show up like this tonight?" "Because I couldn't keep hiding," he said. "And I didn't want you to find out from someone else. There are photos of us. Paparazzi caught one of me walking you home last week. It hasn't hit the internet yet, but it will. I needed you to hear it from me." Sierra's breath caught. "There are photos," he nodded. "My life isn't private, not really, and I hate that, but it's the truth. You deserve to know what being with me actually means." "Being with you," she echoed, the words foreign now. "I don't want to lose you," Elias said quietly. Sierra looked away, her mind racing. "I need time," he nodded once. "I'll give you as much as you need." When she turned and walked into her building, her heart felt like it was dragging behind her, heavy and confused. The next few days passed in a blur. She didn't go to the gym. She skipped her usual coffee stop, avoided the smoothie shop, even took a different route home from work. Her phone buzzed twice with calls from an unknown number, but she didn't answer. She wasn't ready. On Thursday, a large envelope showed up at the front desk of the dental clinic. Her name was written in bold ink across the front. Inside, there was no note, just a ticket, a single ticket to the opening gala of the Langston Foundation's new art wing. Black tie. The kind of event people fought to get into, and tucked behind the ticket a small card. "I'll be there. No pressure, just come if you want to see me." Sierra stared at it for a long time. She almost threw it away. But Saturday night, after hours of pacing her apartment, she pulled out the only dress she owned that could pass as formal. Her makeup was minimal, her hair twisted into something simple and elegant. When she arrived at the venue, she nearly turned around at the front steps. The place looked like a palace. Crystal chandeliers glowed through massive windows. Valets in tuxedos guided sleek cars into a private garage. She felt like a fraud just standing there. But then she saw Elias inside, across the crowded entry hall. He stood near a sculpture installation, his expression unreadable, but his eyes never left her once they found her. She walked toward him slowly, each step feeling like it carried 100 questions. "You came," he said, his voice quieter than she expected. "I almost didn't." "I would have understood." She looked around. The guests were dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits. Waiters carried champagne flutes on silver trays. "This is your world, not the part I care about," he said. "This is just noise." "I'd trade all of it if it meant I could keep you," she blinked. "Don't say things like that." "I'm not trying to impress you," he said. "I'm trying to be honest." She studied him. There was something different about the way he stood tonight, not just the suit or the setting, but the weight in his gaze. Like he wasn't just hoping she'd forgive him, but terrified that she wouldn't. "I don't care that you're rich," she said finally. "What I care about is whether you trust me enough to let me in. The real you, not the filtered version." "I want that more than anything," he said, "but it's messy. My life comes with complications, security, headlines, people who watch every move I make. I'm not afraid of messy," she said. "I'm afraid of being lied to." "Then I won't lie to you again," Elias said. "I promise." They stood in silence for a moment. Around them, the gala buzzed with polite laughter and murmured conversations, but Sierra only heard her own heartbeat. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of this," she admitted. "Then we'll take it slow," he said. "No pressure, no expectations, just let me show you who I really am." She met his gaze. Starting now," he offered his hand. She took it. They didn't dance. They didn't pose for photos. Instead, they slipped out through a side door and walked along the quiet garden path behind the museum. The moonlight caught in the fountain as they sat on a marble bench, far from the glittering chaos inside. "Tell me something no one else knows about you," Sierra said, her fingers still laced with his. Elias looked up at the sky. "I used to pretend I was invisible when I was a kid. After my mom died, I'd sit in my closet and try to disappear. I thought if no one could see me, no one could hurt me." The confession hit her like a wave. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I haven't told anyone that in years," he said, "but with you it feels safe." Sierra leaned against his shoulder. And for the first time since everything changed, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a fairy tale. Maybe it was something better. Sierra stepped into the glass elevator with Elias, her fingers still curled around his. The Langston Foundation gala had faded behind them like a distant echo, but the silence in the elevator was louder than anything they'd left behind. The city lights stretched out below, glittering like a field of stars beneath fogged glass. She could see her own reflection in the metal door, nervous eyes, parted lips, her posture too straight to be relaxed. Elias didn't speak until the elevator opened directly into a penthouse. Not just a nice apartment, a cathedral of sleek design and impossible views. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the space like a glass cocoon. A grand piano sat untouched in the corner. The air smelled faintly of cedar and something citrusy. Sierra stopped just inside, stunned. "This is your place?" "It's one of them," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. She turned toward him sharply. "You brought me here. Why?" "Because I wanted you to see where I live when I'm not pretending to be someone else." She wandered toward the window, arms crossed. "It's hard to believe you were ever pretending." "I wasn't pretending to be kind or interested in you. I was just trying to have something real, in a life where most things aren't." "That's not comforting," she said without looking back. He came to stand beside her, not too close. "I know, I didn't bring you here to impress you. You've already done that, without trying." Elias hesitated. "There's a reason I didn't want to talk about my job, about money." "I figured that out," she said, eyes still locked on the skyline. "But I'm still here, so say whatever it is you've been holding back." He exhaled through his nose. "People have always wanted something from me, partnerships. Access, status, a last name. I've been used a lot, so I stopped letting people close. And then I showed up," she said quietly. "You didn't try," he said. That's what made it different. Sierra turned to face him. What are you expecting now? That I'll just step into this life and pretend like I belong. I don't want you to pretend, he said. I want you to belong because you choose to, because you want to. Her eyes searched his. And if I don't, then I'll still be glad I met you. She blinked, caught off guard by the raw sincerity in his voice. You're not making this easy. I don't think love is supposed to be easy. Sierra's stomach dropped. Is that what this is? Elias didn't look away. For me, yes. She stepped back, needing space. Her knees hit a low velvet ottoman and she sat without meaning to. You say that like it's simple. It isn't, but it's true. She stared at the floor. I don't know what to do with this. I'm not asking for a decision right now, he said gently. The room was too quiet. The city buzzed beyond the glass, oblivious to the storm inside her. Then, barely above a whisper, Sierra asked, If I'd known who you were from the beginning, would you have still talked to me? Elias hesitated. I think about that a lot, and honestly, I don't know. I might have assumed you were like everyone else. That's why I'm glad I didn't know everything about you at first either. It gave us something neither of us expected. She nodded slowly. A clean slate. A chance, he corrected, and I don't want to waste it. The elevator chimed again. A woman in a crisp black blazer stepped out, holding a tray with 2 covered plates. I thought you might not have eaten at the gala, Elias explained. I had dinner brought up, just in case. Sierra gave a half laugh. Of course you did. I didn't know what you liked, so I guessed. Poorly, probably. He lifted the lids to reveal a perfectly seared piece of salmon on one plate and rigatoni in a golden sauce on the other. Warm sourdough sat between them, wrapped in a linen cloth. She looked at him, eyes narrowed. Are you trying to bribe me with carbs? It's possible. Despite everything, she smiled. Fine, but I'm only sitting because I skipped lunch. They ate at the long marble island in the kitchen, the city behind them glowing like a promise. The food was incredible, but Sierra barely tasted it. She was watching him, the way he sat forward when she spoke, the way he didn't interrupt, the way he actually listened. She set down her fork. You said your mom passed away. He nodded, his expression dimming. Car accident, I was 13. I'm sorry. She would have liked you. She hated fakes. Could smell them a mile away. Sierra leaned back, folding her arms. So what happens now, you tell me? She studied him, the tailored shirt, the watch, the penthouse. None of it matched the man she met at the gym, but somehow it all made sense now. He wasn't pretending to be someone else. He was trying to remember who he used to be before the world told him who he had to be. I don't want to be a secret, she said. You won't be, and I don't want to be a headline. I'll protect you. She tilted her head. Can you promise that? I can promise I'll try. She stood slowly. Then I'll stay for tonight. Elias rose but didn't touch her. Are you sure? No, she said, but I'm curious, and that's enough. He nodded once. She walked past the grand piano, pausing only briefly to trail 2 fingers across the smooth keys. You ever play this? Not since college. What did you used to play? He hesitated. Debussy and the Beatles, depending on the night. She turned toward him. That's a combination. I contain multitudes. Sierra laughed, then shook her head. You're ridiculous. And you're impossible to walk away from. She didn't answer, but the warmth in her cheeks said enough. Outside, the rain had started. Thin streaks against the glass. Inside, the silence between them had shifted entirely, not empty, but waiting. Sierra woke to the soft scent of sandalwood and the faint hum of the city beyond the penthouse windows. Thin morning light filtered through the sheer curtains, casting long shadows across the floor. She sat up slowly, registering the weight of a cashmere blanket around her shoulders and the quiet hush of a space too elegant to ever feel lived in. The guest room, because she hadn't stayed in his bed, was minimalist but warm, with ivory walls and understated art. Her dress from the gala hung neatly on a padded hanger by the door, and her heels were placed side by side beneath the bench. She found Elias in the open concept kitchen, barefoot, dressed in charcoal joggers and a black Henley, sleeves pushed to his forearms as he stood at the stove. He didn't look like a billionaire in that moment. He looked like someone trying to make things right. I wasn't sure if you'd want coffee or tea, he said without turning, so I made both. Sierra leaned against the doorway. I could get used to this. He glanced back, his face unreadable. You okay? I don't know yet, she said, stepping forward, but I'm hungry. He handed her a plate without hesitation, and they sat at a small corner table beneath a massive hanging light fixture made of hand-blown glass. She watched him pick at his toast, his movements slower than usual, like he was waiting for a verdict. I've been thinking, Sierra said, about what this actually means. Elias looked up, alert. Tell me. I don't want to be part of your world as a decoration. Or a secret you keep just long enough to get bored. His gaze sharpened. You think I'd do that? I don't know what you do, she said. That's the problem. I know who you were at the gym. I'm still figuring out who you are here. I want you to see all of it, he said. Even the parts I don't show anyone else. Then stop filtering everything through what you think I want to hear, he nodded slowly. Fair, she set her fork down. Tell me something real, something raw, not curated. Elias leaned back, his jaw tight. I almost sold the company last year. I didn't tell anyone, not even my board. Why? Because it stopped feeling like mine. Everything I built turned into noise, meetings, headlines, all of it felt hollow. Why didn't you go through with it? I met you. Sierra went still. I started looking forward to something again. Even if it was just an accidental smoothie incident, he added with a quiet smile. I told you not to say things like that. He didn't apologize. I mean it, Sierra. You reminded me what it felt like to be seen, not as a name or a number, just me. She watched him carefully. You're not afraid of all this falling apart. I'm terrified, he said without hesitation, but I'd be more afraid to let you go. Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken questions. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and froze. Elias noticed. What is it? Someone took a picture of us leaving the gala. It's already online. His eyes darkened. Is your name mentioned? No, just mine and Mystery Woman. I'll have it taken down. Sierra shook her head. That's not the point. This is the beginning, isn't it? The press. The assumptions. Yes, he said, but I'll shield you however I can. She stood and walked toward the window, wrapping her arms around herself. I'm not used to being watched, I know. I can't control what they say about me. No, Elias said gently, but I can control how I stand beside you when they do. She turned slowly. That's a nice line. It's not a line, he said. It's a promise. Her chest tightened. You don't even know if this will work. I don't care, he said. I want the chance to find out. The elevator chimed again, but neither of them moved. A sharp rap on the door followed. Elias frowned and walked to answer it. A man in a crisp gray suit stepped inside without waiting. We have a situation. Elias's entire demeanor shifted. Not now, it's urgent. There's a leak someone from the board. They're threatening to release internal documents unless you back out of the Darcy acquisition. Sierra stiffened. What's going on? Elias didn't look away from the man. Give me 10 minutes. The man hesitated. This can't wait. 10 minutes. When the door closed again, Elias turned to her. I'm sorry. You don't have to explain, she said. This is your world. No, he said, walking toward her. You're in it now. And you deserve to know what that means. I'm not asking for a seat at your boardroom table. I want you at every table I sit at, Elias said. Not because you have to be there, but because I need you there. Sierra stared at him. You barely know me. I know what it feels like to lose myself, he said. And I know that ever since I met you, I've been finding my way back. Her throat tightened. I have to handle this, he said. But when I come back, I want to talk about what's next for us. She nodded. I'll be here. He leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead before turning and disappearing into the elevator. Sierra stood alone in the penthouse, watching the clouds roll in over the skyline. She didn't know how long she'd been standing there when she heard the soft chime again. Elias stepped back inside, jacket gone, sleeves rolled up, his expression lighter. It's handled. She raised a brow. Just like that. Not without consequences, but I made it clear anyone trying to use my personal life against me is going to regret it. Her lips twitched. You threatened your board, I reminded them, who built the company they're sitting in. He walked to her and held out a small velvet box. I didn't plan this, but I saw it weeks ago and couldn't stop thinking about it. She opened it slowly. Inside was a bracelet, delicate, white gold with a single sapphire in the center. It reminded me of your eyes, he said. The first time you looked at me like I was worth something. She looked up at him, heart in her throat. You don't have to buy my affection. I'm not buying anything, he said. I'm giving you a piece of what matters to me. Sierra closed the box and set it aside. She stepped into him, her fingers sliding into his hair. You broke every rule I had, she whispered. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it. She kissed him slow, sure, unafraid. And for the first time since everything changed, there was no doubt, no hesitation, just a man who had stopped hiding and a woman who had chosen to stay. The first time Sierra sat in Elias's car without feeling like an imposter, it was for something as simple as visiting his grandmother. She's the only person in my family who still sends handwritten letters, Elias said as he pulled onto a winding coastal road, the late afternoon sun casting golden streaks through the tinted windshield. And she already suspects something's up because I haven't introduced her to anyone since college. Is this a test? Sierra asked, brushing a wrinkle from the navy sundress she'd borrowed from a friend who worked costume design. She'll love you, Elias said, glancing at her. She's the one who taught me how to make risotto. She only judges people on their ability to hold a conversation and their opinion on olives. I'm good with words, and I hate olives. Perfect. They arrived at a white stone house perched on a cliff, surrounded by wind-bent trees and a garden that smelled faintly of rosemary and salt. Elias's grandmother opened the door before they could knock. She had silver hair swept into a twist, sharp brown eyes, and wore a pale blue linen dress that looked like it had been tailored decades ago and never gone out of style. You must be the girl who makes my grandson look like he slept more than 4 hours for once, she said, stepping aside. Guilty, Sierra said, stepping inside. Though I can't take all the credit, he's been drinking actual water lately too. Miraculous, the older woman said. I'm a leaner. And you're already my favorite. They ate on the terrace overlooking the water. Elias asked questions that didn't feel like interviews. She wanted to know what Sierra read, what she dreamed about when she couldn't sleep, whether she danced for herself when no one was watching. She's serious about people, Elias said later as they drove back toward the city. You passed. I wasn't trying to, Sierra said. She just felt familiar. She reminds me of my mom, he said after a moment. Not in how she sounds, just the way she knows when you're lying to yourself. Sierra reached for his hand. You're not lying to yourself now, are you? His fingers tightened around hers. Not anymore. In the weeks that followed, the rhythm of their lives began to shift. Elias started working from home 2 days a week, letting his executive team carry more weight. Sierra found herself invited to a private art exhibit one evening, a charity fashion show the next all as his plus one. At first, it unnerved her, but she never felt like he was parading her. He held her hand when the flashes went off, whispered irreverent jokes in her ear during speeches, and always noticed when she needed to step away from the noise. One night after they returned from a benefit dinner, Sierra sat cross-legged on the massive sectional, flipping through a portfolio Elias had left on the coffee table. These are your designs, she asked, holding up a sketch of a modular smart home interface. I drew those when I was 19, he said. We were trying to land our first round of funding, didn't even have a functioning prototype yet. She looked up. Have you ever thought about teaching? He blinked. What? You're always talking about legacy, but you've already built something huge. Maybe the next step is giving that knowledge to someone else. He sat back, thoughtful. I hadn't considered it. You should. The next morning, she found a folder on the kitchen counter labeled Teaching Fellowship Inquiry Draft, Confidential. For Sierra's eyes only. She didn't mention it, but she smiled all day. As the summer deepened, so did their bond. Elias began showing up to her weekend dance classes with iced tea and a book in hand, watching from the back as toddlers in Tull bounced out of rhythm and laughed anyway. You're not bored? She asked once as they walked through the park after class. I've spent hours in meetings where grown adults argued over font sizes, he said. This is chaos, but it's honest. She stopped walking. You know what I realized? What? We've never fought. He raised a brow. You're saying we should. No, she laughed. I'm saying it's coming, and I want to know we'll survive it. He considered that. When it happens, we'll talk, even if it's loud, even if it's messy, and afterward, I'll still make you coffee. And you'll still roll your eyes at my playlist. They kept walking. On an overcast Sunday, Elias brought her to a rooftop garden she didn't know existed. It overlooked the river, framed by old brick and climbing ivy. A table had been set for two with a linen cloth, fresh flowers, and a small envelope under her plate. She picked it up, heart skipping. What is this? Read it. Sierra opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in his careful, slightly slanted handwriting. I thought I knew what I wanted out of life. I thought success was measured in numbers, in power, in control. Then I met you, and everything shifted. You reminded me that love isn't about timing or logic. It's about choosing someone every day, even when it's terrifying. I choose you, now and always. She looked up, eyes shining. Elias was already kneeling, a ring in his hand. I don't want to wait for perfect timing. There's no such thing, but I know exactly what I want, and it's you. Will you marry me? Sierra felt everything at once, the awe, the fear, the joy, the certainty. Yes, she breathed, stepping into his arms before he could even rise. He stood, lifting her off the ground in a full spin as the sky opened above them and a soft rain began to fall. They didn't run for cover. They stayed there, soaked and laughing, until the rain passed and the world felt new again. 6 months later, they were married in Elias's garden, surrounded by wildflowers and people who had watched them grow into something neither of them expected. Sierra wore a dress with stitched panels of her students' drawings hidden in the hem. Elias whispered something to her during the vows that made her laugh and cry at once. They didn't have a traditional honeymoon. Instead, they flew to a quiet town in Italy where Elias had spent a summer in college. They stayed in a cottage with no Wi-Fi, made their own pasta, and danced barefoot on the tile floors to old jazz records. Back home, Sierra opened a nonprofit for underprivileged kids to access dance and movement therapy. Elias began mentoring young entrepreneurs through a fellowship he funded anonymously. Every morning, he made her coffee exactly the way she liked it. Every evening, she waited at the door when he came home, bare feet on the cool floor, smile already forming. They didn't need perfect. They chose real, they chose each other, and they never looked back.